Kevin, just to make sure, it's Tuerff.
Yes, thank you for asking.
Thank you.
It's Tuerff, like AstroTurf.
So you couldn't spell it correctly then?
I could tell you a whole story of how that was botched on Fox News one day.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Be good humans, be good humans, be good humans, or we will think you suck. Be good humans, be good humans, be good humans, or we will think you suck.
Welcome in. This is the Be Good Humans podcast. I'm Brian Phelps, and that there is Trey Calloway.
That is me. That is me.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Something's up.
No. Actually, it was good. It was weird. I had a weird morning.
Uh-oh.
A little bit
Can
of
it be aired? I mean, is this something we can talk about? Okay.
Yes. I should always.
Sometimes when you get drunk, you never know where you're gonna.
I should always clarify. I had a little bit of a crisis on my way into the studio this morning. I saw an accident at an intersection, and it was really just a little fender bender, right? It was apparently it was a mom taking her kid to day camp, and then she got hit by an older driver who turned left in front of her at the last second, the way it happens, and thankfully nobody got hurt, right? But still, I saw it happen, so I pulled over anyway, and I wanted to make sure everything was cool.
Sure.
And this was the kind of funny thing, I guess, is that two other cars pulled over at the same time, right? And each of us was then suddenly out of our cars. And, you know, we're doing what you do. We're saying we witnessed the crash and making sure everybody's safe and helping them get to the curb. But it was kind of almost at a certain point, like almost overkill, like a little bit of competitive kindness, a little bit like.
And that's a real thing, but it's for a good reason.
Yeah,
because I have this term when you do something kind for a person, it's kind of like it's almost selfishly because it makes you feel so good.
Well, that is true. Like in that moment, I was like, oh, I should do this because this is the right thing to do.
Right.
But suddenly everyone else was
Everybody
doing
else wants to be the hero. And well, not everybody, but those three people that pulled over after you, that is, it's wonderful even, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, they want to be the guy. They want to be,
I mean, I guess that's a thing. I guess crises create good humans to a certain extent.
It absolutely does. Especially in communities where that experience, they go through hardships together, whole communities. And it doesn't have to be a small community like we're from, but it could be a huge, gigantic city. And I have a case in point for you.
Okay.
Illinois, rural area, winters are brutal. This is northern Illinois.
Now, listen, I've stayed in the Ice Hotel, and it wasn't as cold as Illinois in the wintertime.
Windy, and 10-foot drifts.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've driven my car behind a major snowplow just to get home. I mean, that happens all the time. So it's brutal. But
yeah.
I contend, I kind of learned that when a community, when a group of people, not just family and friends, but when a group of people go through something together and they come out the other end, after 3 months of brutal winter,
right?
There is a soul there. There's a bond, a soul that is like no other. And here's a case in point using Los Angeles. For an example.
So we're not in
Cambridge,
rural Illinois anymore. Okay.
One of the earthquakes happened.
God, yes.
Yeah. And it was right before I left for work. But this was a big one, and things actually fell down in my house.
Okay.
It was a huge one.
Maybe the 93 Northridge or something like that.
Yes, that's what it was. And I'm driving to work because I want to get in as quick as possible and calm people down and let them know, we're there. And this doesn't ever happen in LA, but there was kindness on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, drivers. I mean, it would be like, you're at a stop light or stop sign, and they're like, no, you go. Because we were all going through that together, and it absolutely brings people together. I think it's almost tribal. Inherently tribal.
Yeah, it kind of reduces us all back to, or sort of bumps us back down to just being human beings.
Yeah.
And I've same situations. Like whether it was Tulsa, where like for us it wasn't winters, it was tornadoes, right?
Sure,
so around this time of year, from May to June, is Tornado Alley, and so that would always pull the community together wherever it got impacted. But yeah, similarly, I'm not proud of this, especially I know better growing up in a place like Tulsa, but like in LA, I'm sure it's the same with you. You don't always get to know your neighbors, right?
That was strange for me. I've said this on the show before, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. I never remember what I say on the show. But when we went on vacation for 2 weeks, we would leave the front door unlocked just in case the neighbors needed something. That's how well we knew our neighbors.
Yeah, and you still do that to this day.
I still do. Well, it drives my assistant crazy.
Well, that's it. But the thing is, like, I off of your earthquake stuff, like, those are some of the only times that I've gotten to actually know neighbors when we're out trying to pick up chimneys that fell down or whatever. And it's like, how are you? I'm okay. How are you?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you just are reminded like, oh yeah, we're all on this big blue ball together, and maybe we should treat each other a little bit.
Our houses are 10, 15 feet away from each other, and I don't know them. I try. I first really tried because that's my background. That's the way I feel in a community setting.
It's the way we were raised.
The way we were raised, and I want to get to know them and support each other. Know that, I have a dog, and if you ever need, or I need to borrow an implement, like a gardening something, I need to know that I know where you're going. But I like that. You feel a little, I don't know, more content and safe. But when I started waving at my neighbors, and they'd be like that reaction, like we don't.
It's a big city thing.
Halloween comes around.
Oh, yeah.
And I wasn't going to be home for trick-or-treaters this particular Halloween, or at least that's what I told the people. I was actually in the back room watching a movie.
Oh, you were that neighbor.
Yeah, I was that neighbor. But I just bought a big bowl of candy, and I put it on their doorstep.
The honor bowl.
Yep, because they had 2 kids, right? So I just wanted, like, again, my 19th try to become friends with these people. A good neighbor. Sure. Didn't hear a word from them. Never even got my bowl back. So it's not uncommon for that to happen. And that was a real learning experience for me.
Well, I'll tell you where it's making my mind go. And it's just that we're talking about small town, local community stuff, or the accident I experienced this morning, even in a larger scale, Los Angeles earthquakes and stuff. This makes me want to bring something up, which is not easy for us to talk about, especially as a couple of knuckleheads who generally like to just have a good time. But I know that I will never forget where I was on the morning of September 11th, 2001. Okay, I'm sitting in my home in Woodland Hills. I've got a couple of kids. It's an otherwise peaceful morning. And then when I flip on the TV, and I get just a glimpse of what was happening in New York City, I will tell you what my next act was. I flipped on the radio because as a longtime listener of you and your former partner, a longtime fan of the Mark and Brian show here in Los Angeles, that's what I would do every morning. I would flip on the radio while I got ready. And that morning, I was immediately struck by what a radically different show it was. Certainly what a radically different world we were suddenly living in. But specifically, the show was completely different. And so I have to ask you, because I don't think we've ever really talked about this. As a listener, I want to know what it was like for you to be on the air that day as somebody whose job it is to be funny.
Right.
How does that work? What? Because you have a very unique point of view.
Well, thank you. And first of all, look, everyone has an important and vital story of where they were, what happened to them, how they dealt with it. So I'll just do this quickly because it's just another story. But I usually, my routine is I get up in the morning, I don't turn on the news. I don't do, because I like to get there early and go through all my stacks and stacks of show prep and news. And I just like that half hour as I'm getting ready to kind of set my mind to what is going to be in store of the day. A comedy sketch that I wrote the night before, or Eric and I. So I didn't know what was going on. And I got there at about, when was it?
You guys would go on the air at 6 a.m.
6 a.m., maybe 5:15. And I'm driving down the road. I parked. I get to the station. I walk in, and Frank Sontag, the beautiful, wonderful Frank Sontag, who runs our board, I walk in, and he looks at me. He's got a TV above the board. He goes, "Are you seeing this?" I went, "Well, this is weird. What?" And I walk around, and I look, and it was just basically what had happened so far is when what everybody thought was like a Cessna.
Oh yeah, the first tower.
The first tower was hit, and smoke was coming out of it, and there was that view. So of course, okay. And then as we went, leading up to 6 o'clock, it happened, and it was happening a lot of places. So we had a quick powwow with the powers that be, and I suggested, look, we obviously. I'm not. It is not time to do an Elvis sketch or the Great White Hunter. Well, let's deal with this. I think the main thing is let people know that we're here. Yeah. Let people know that we're all in this. We're all doing it, and maybe suggest to like go check on your neighbor, because they might need it. They might need a helping hand.
Well, that's it, right? Like there's no way you can be funny or that you would even want to be funny, but that does not diminish people's need to feel good, especially in that moment.
And I knew a lot of people, there was talk like maybe we shouldn't go on the air and play a best of. No, for two reasons. We should be there for them. Right. But also a best of is, hopefully a show of yucks. Yeah, and you don't want, it's not a yucky thing. Or a yuck up thing. And, so we did the show. We used a lot of network feeds.
Yeah, of course.
From ABC. And so, just getting the latest. Then we'd come back and we'd do our thing and just be supportive and let them know that we're feeling the same thing they felt. So for better or for worse, we got through it. And I remember this, and this is just a personal thing for me. I remember we said our goodbyes. I said, be good humans. I took off my headphones. I put them down. The whole staff was just exhausted because working and this is going on. Yeah. I got up. I walked out of the studio, down the hallway to the program director's office. And the program director at the time was the lovely, the talented, the beautiful, the big-hearted Rita Wilde.
I love her.
Yeah, we got to have her on the show sometime. Yeah. But I walked into her office. And she was just sitting at her desk, and she's, sad and being emotional, physically just like down like this. And I sat down on her couch, didn't say a word to her. She didn't say a word to me. And I started bawling my eyes out. Exhausted, but I hadn't bawled that hard since I was like 5. And I just couldn't stop crying because of what has happened in the world. It was shattering for so many of us.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing that story. I mean, I know this, maybe other people don't know this who are just used to you making them laugh all the time, and there are millions of those people, but I also, I know and love about you that you're a softie. You've got a heart a mile wide, but you could be born without a heart and still be deeply impacted by the events of that day that are still far reaching to this day in the ways that they have impacted people.
Far reaching. So I tell you what, why don't we take a little break? And when we come back, we're going to be talking to someone that not experiencing from the fringe like all of us, millions and millions all over the world did, but he was directly involved in it. And in his experience, the experience that he had being directly involved in it, he did something that not only was life-changing for him, but life-changing for millions and millions of people.
Oh, wow.
Hook.
Okay, that's
hooked you.
I mean, that's a powerful hook.
You guys are really hooked, right?
They're hooked.
Are you hooked?
We're hooked.
Don't thumb up.
All right, stick around. We'll be right back.
Be good humans, be good humans, be good humans, or we will think you suck.
And Brian Phelps, we are back.
Yes, we are, Trey Calloway. All right, you ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. quick setup. Due to the United States airspace being shut down following the 9/11 attacks, our guest today spent 5 days stranded with many, many other airline passengers in the small Canadian town of Gander, Newfoundland.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And because of that experience, he went on to become the founder of Pay It Forward 9/11. We honored to welcome Kevin Tuerff. Kev, how are you doing?
Hi, Kevin. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's great. It's an honor to be here.
Tell us about Gander, first of all. How big is it?
Back in 2001, when I arrived there unexpectedly, it was a population of about 9,000 people. And over the course of a few hours, 38 jumbo jets land, and all of a sudden they basically doubled their population with 7,000 unexpected refugees.
Unbelievable. So where were you headed to initially before your flight was diverted and you wound up in Gander?
I was flying directly into New York City airspace. I was finishing a European vacation, took off from Paris, France in the morning of September 11th. And back then, they had one TV monitor over the ceiling with the flight path, and so we're over the ocean a couple of hours out before we should be ready to land in New York. And all of a sudden, there's a sudden drop in elevation, and when you're over the ocean, that's not cool. And then a bank to the right.
Were you getting any explanation at this point?
Not yet. And so all of a sudden I look up at the monitor and we're changed course flying to the North Pole, it looks like. What's going on?
Right.
And I thought, well, maybe we're just taking a weird route to get back to New York. And then finally we were on an Air France flight. And so the pilot came on the PA and first in French said something, didn't understand, but he said the word terrorism in English. And we saw the flight attendants like gasp. And then a couple of minutes later, in broken English, says, due to a terrorist attack in the United States, we'll be landing in Gander. And that was it.
Wow. And I'm just a guess here, but you had never been to Gander previous to this.
I honestly, even after we landed for hours, I wasn't sure what country we were in. Are we in Iceland? Are we in Canada?
Right.
I had never heard of Newfoundland.
But I mean, to get that announcement, and that's all the announcement you got, due to a terrorist attack, we are going to land in Gander. And that's like, what? Tell me more or something. And you didn't know. They wouldn't. When did they?
Well, it was hours later. I mean, we, and of course, you have to remind ourselves that, like, nobody had, there was no internet on the plane. There was no, I had a cell phone, but no one had international coverage back then.
Right.
And so even after we landed, we got little blips of information, but it probably wasn't until about 1 o'clock local time when the pilot came on the PA again and said, the World Trade Center has collapsed. The Pentagon was hit. And we're like, what? And nobody wanted to believe it. It was like, it seemed impossible.
Yeah.
But we couldn't verify it. I tried to contact, my parents, and who I knew they would be worried. They knew I was flying into New York that day. Could not get through. And so, a long story short, we did not see it with our own eyes for 12 hours when we finally arrived at a community college, which became a refugee shelter.
So that was my next question. I presumably you stayed on the tarmac for a while or in the plane, and then what happened?
15 hours.
15 hours on a plane.
On the plane?
Wow.
On the plane.
I'm guessing the peanuts were gone after about the first 30 minutes, but then...
They kept replaying movies, but the only good part was they kept plying us with every little mini bottle of liquor that they had.
Wow.
Roll out the Ambien in a wheelbarrow.
Exactly. So 15 hours on the plane, then they get you off. What is your first experience of arriving in Gander? You're looking around. What's happening? Where did they take you?
Well, it was, I'll never forget when it becomes late night, it's now 7, 8 o'clock at night. And I've got a seat on the plane over the window seat. And so I look out and I see this long line of school buses, and they're coming down the runway.
Yeah.
And that's when it hit me that they've been preparing all day to help us get off the planes.
Wow.
So the first thing, now years later, looking back at all this, the first thing you have to even question is, like, it's a tiny airport. There's like, there was not room for any more than one plane. Now they've got 38 jumbo jets.
Oh.
So, but the first thing they did was the mayor decided that they would let us in to their community, into their country.
Mm-hmm.
They let us into their homes and their schools. And so we get off the plane and we walk into the terminal, and it is like a party has just erupted. There are people that have brought in Kentucky Fried Chicken and boxes of donuts and sandwiches and bottled water and things. And they're just, take what you want. Free,
and presumably no customs checks or any of that stuff.
No, there was very, very, very. They were concerned that there might be terrorists on some of those planes.
Great.
So there was a long line to get through security, and then I managed to get to the one or two of the payphones that they had. I called my parents, collect, and they answered, and I heard their voice, and I cried, and they cried, and I said, I think I'm in, Nova Scotia. Like, no, you're not. We've tracked you. You're in Gander, Newfoundland.
And probably thinking even then at that point for a little while, like, well, I'll be here for a matter of hours, but those hours turned into literal days, right?
Right. And so, we knew finally when the pilot let us off, he said, we don't know where they're taking you. We don't know what they'll have. So you couldn't even take your luggage because they were worried about bombs. So what we did was we took the pillows back when they had pillows on planes, took the pillows off the planes. And the only thing we had in our overhead compartment were 2 bottles of Grey Goose vodka that we bought at the duty-free shop in Paris, which came in really handy.
Right.
And then a camera, and I had a video camera. And I started documenting what was going on there.
And you were led to where initially?
Well, so the next thing they're like, hurry, get some food, get on the school bus now. And like, okay. And then so we start, the school bus takes off, and we're driving, and it's in the middle of a forest. There is nothing there. It is super dark. Yeah, it was a little bit anxious. They didn't even say, we're taking you to the College of the North Atlantic, which is a very nice community college there. And they didn't say how long it would take. And they actually took a route, which was the quickest way there. But if we had gone through the town, it would have made me feel a little bit better. Like there was a Walmart there, and there was, fast food restaurants and things. But we went through the back road, basically. It was the quickest way to the college. And so anyway, finally walked into this community college, and they had television set up for, they'd canceled school for the next day. Volunteers had come in. They pushed back all of the chairs in every classroom because that's where they knew we would be sleeping, in the classrooms of that college.
I mean, this is extraordinary, and it's. I'm sure it was less in the moment. I'm sure when they weren't telling you where you were going initially or whatever, I'm sure it was less about withholding information and more about these people in this small town just trying to react as quickly as possible and mobilize to help a large number of people from all over the world try and feel safe, right?
So thus begins the change your life moment. That you experienced this kindness, and not just for an hour when you got off the plane to get a bucket of chicken, but it went on for days and days and days. And this small community, these I don't know how many people, how large is Gander? You said
about 9,000.
About 9,000, small, and they just banded together. There's a million things they could have been doing, but they came together to help those in need. And this is when you saw something that kind of started your Pay It Forward 9/11. It kind of inspired it, correct?
Yeah. So just a couple other examples that were just sort of mind blowing was that, they opened up at the college because they knew we wanted to talk to our families in our offices. And so they opened up their phones. And so we ran up a $13,000 phone bill. I learned when I was writing my memoir, Channel of Peace, Stranded in Gander and 9/11. So I said, how much did all those phone calls? $13,000. And we tried, just can we give you money for the call? No, you would do the same, they kept saying. Like, oh, I don't know. We probably would find a way to profit off of this. And, another time where we finally just after, with one thing they didn't have at the college was showers. And so by day 3, we stink. We need a shower. We need a change of clothes. So we hear there's a Walmart there. So my partner, Kevin, and I, we head out. We're walking down the street. And all of a sudden, because it's like 2 miles away, it was a beautiful day. The car pulls over, rolls down the window. Hey, what are you doing? Like, oh God, we're sorry. Well, we're new. We're just visitors, and they're like, well, hop in. We'll give you a ride. Like, I don't know about you guys. My mom always said, never get into a car with strangers.
Right.
I won't even get into a car with Brian.
It's so smart to do that.
So this happens 3 times. And so finally, we said, I think we better get in. We're never going to get there. And so we met this nice couple, chat them up. They take us to Walmart, offered to give them some money for gas going out of the way. No, you would do the same. They kept saying. What they're talking about is the golden rule. Yeah. The golden rule: treat others like you want to be treated. Yeah. And so I came back to Austin, Texas, when I finally, it took us 7 days. Finally, the whole trip took 7 days to get home. But when I did, I wondered, would we do the same? Would a small town in Texas, would they do the same? Would even a big town, it was like Austin, would we do the same? And it wasn't so much that some people helped out. It was that everybody helped out. There was not a stove in Gander that was not turned on cooking food. There was one man I've become a good friends with. His job was to wake up at 4 a.m. and make toast.
Who was organizing this, Kevin? Who kind of organized all this? Were there certain leaders of the community, or because this is a lot of organization? Who picked that guy to make toast at 4 o'clock in the morning?
It was the old-fashioned phone tree. They at the community college, the president said, okay, we need everybody to help out and just get up here to the school. And the part that I will never forget was so it's now midnight. We're watching television, these terrible images. And I had a credit card. I could have bought a hotel room. There's only 3 hotels in this town. Yeah. Okay. And those had to be used for the flight crews. Sure. So for the first time in my life, I had to rely on the kindness of a stranger to give me a pillow to put my head. And so at midnight, a young teenage boy walks in there with 2 pillows and an inflatable air mattress. And I thought, man, I want to sleep on the air mattress instead of the cold tile floor of this classroom. And so I go get it, and I just got choked up. And I said, thank you. And he's like, you bet. And turns around and leaves. And, I no idea. He probably never got his pillow back. I don't know. But it was just really powerful.
I mean, very powerful, very powerfully inspiring, and it inspired all kinds of different things. And by the way, if for starters, if this story sounds at all familiar, it may be because if you're watching or listening, maybe you've seen the Tony Award-winning musical Come From Away, which is based on a variety of these true stories from those days in Gander, including Kevin's, by the way. There's actually a character in the play named Kevin T, who I think is at least in part based on you. But it not only inspired a Tony Award-winning Broadway musical, it inspired you directly to create Pay It Forward 9/11. Can you tell us more about that vision and what you have set forth to do since?
So because people kept saying, no, you can't pay us back. You can't do it. I said, all right, I can't pay it back. So I borrow an idea from the film, Pay It Forward. And so I had a company in Austin at the time, and we had about 40 staff. So on the morning of September 11th, on the first anniversary of 2002, I closed the doors of my office and I handed out $100 bills, paired people up in teams of 2, and said, go take this out and spend this money in the community any way you want. And then come back and let's talk about it and see how it goes. Honestly, I wasn't sure if the staff would be into it or not, but they were. And they came back because they went out with the assignment to tell people, remember, we said we would never forget the lives that were lost, but then to also tell the story about what happened to their boss, who had this better side of humanity experience. And so, people started buying, cups of coffee, one team went and bought a savings bond for a single mother who gave birth to a child who was born on 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
And it went on and on and on. And finally, we weren't doing it for publicity, but people found out about it, and then they wanted to get involved and do something too. And so it became a way for people to say, rather than just watching those images of the planes hitting the towers every year, this becomes a tradition where people go out and do at least 3 good deeds for strangers and then ask that person to do the same. And so it does create a ripple effect. And long story short, now we are on our 23rd annual attempt at this year. And we now do, we have a national board of directors, and we have events in Washington and DC and New York City, Austin, Texas, where I was from, and Kansas City. And last year we had people in 45 states and 12 countries that pledged to do this.
You inspire audiences around the world with this talk, and I love the name of it, The Ripple Effect of Compassion, which focuses on kindness to strangers, immigrants, and refugees. Not the people that are in our lives, not our family. Right. I mean, you're going to get that, not our friends, but people that are strangers to you, that maybe think different than you. Maybe they look different from you. But maybe it's not always going to work, but you'll get positive reactions many more times than negative. But to just pay it forward to someone that you don't know, and that's the important thing behind this.
Right. And you were so right that unfortunately over the years, in a time before hashtags, 2002, man, we were all saying, "United we stand." It was everywhere. It was pervasive. And now we could not be farther from that. And we are so siloed. And people will tell me like, "Oh, well, yeah, I would do what they did in Gander, in my neighborhood, but not the other neighborhood where those people live, or, people like they want to help their neighborhood or their religion or their community, but not their other country, So in Gander, they had people from 90 countries that they allowed in, even some from Middle Eastern countries so there was great reason to be concerned, but they took a chance. The mayor told me, so we weren't going to let you rot on those planes, and where people need help, and you help them.
And the people stepped up. They really stepped up. Like you said, not just a few of them, but all of them.
Right.
Wow.
Well,
really?
Would you tell us a little bit more about some of the different kinds of random acts of kindness that you guys get rolling every year, and let us know when things sort of kick off for you this year in 2024?
Yeah, thank you. So I'll just say it multiple times. Please go visit our website at payitforward911.org. And we're asking people to register their pledge. It's free, but just tell us where you're going to do some sort of good deed. And what we have now is we open it up so it's not just on September 11th, but we say we have 11 days of kindness campaign and asking people to do those 3 good deeds. That way we can get more schools involved, more churches, businesses. And so there are and the great part about it is it's whatever is up to someone's imagination to develop what they want to do. But one of my favorite stories actually took place back in Canada. Canada participates in this too, even though they're the people who are the kindness superstars. So the Broadway company of Come From Away, in 2016, I stepped down from my company, and all of a sudden I had nobody to help me pull this off. And so I went to the producers and I said, "Hey, will you continue my tradition?" And they said, "Sure." So they gave $100 bills to the cast and the crew and the band of every production all around the world. And so they go out and do good deeds for strangers. And then they come back and talk about it at the end of one of their following shows the next night. And but this one, this was an actor and a stage manager. They were paired together in Toronto, Canada. And they each got a $100 bill from the producers. And they said, we could probably do something on our own too. So they pulled out $100. So now their $100 are $300. And they went, there was a woman who kept bringing her classes to see the show from Northern Ontario. Her name was Peg. And so Peg agreed to organize a Pay It Forward event for her entire grades 1 through 8. And so she takes $300 and buys $300 worth of carnations, gives them out to the kids. The kids write little messages. Remember, we said never forget, Pay It Forward 9/11. Puts little messages on each little carnation, hands them out to the kids. The kids go out into the community. And so I get the report back the next day that there's this one particular girl who she came back and wrote an essay about her experience. She and her friend, they went to a supermarket, and so we saw this lady, and she looked like she was having a terrible day. She said, and so we decided to give her the flower, and the lady started to cry. And so she said, how much for the flower? No, it's free. It's, if you want to do a good deed, you can pay it forward. And she started to cry some more, and she said, you have no idea how much this means to me. My daughter died yesterday.
Oh boy.
Wow.
So then she goes back and she writes about in an essay, you never know what people are going through, so we ought to be more kind.
Of course.
You know, and I'm sure you'll agree that if you don't have $100 or $200 or $300 to pay it forward, there are all kinds of ways you can, endless ways. You talk about, you have this term, and I love this term, because it's what I feel when I do something kind for someone. And I think I mentioned it earlier in the show or sometime. I'm always repeating myself. You may know this already about me. But
as long as you don't repeat yourself.
But it's selfish. It's a selfish thing that I want. Selfish because it makes me feel great.
Right.
Not about I'm the hero, but it makes me feel great to see the joy.
Yeah.
So there are, if you can't afford $100, there are many, just for instance, here's something, and you might have a bunch of these that you all do, but I like to recognize the people that feel invisible.
Oh yeah.
The elderly walking down the street, you can just tell by the look on their face they got to get somewhere. They want to go into the diner, get their whatever, and then get home, and nobody would say hi to them. So I always do. Again, it doesn't always work out. Sometimes I get a look like, were you going to hit me? Like, just hi.
The way I look at you.
Yeah, the way, most of the time. And most of the time I do.
Yes.
But a busboy. A service guy, any kind of maintenance, cleaning ladies, and the list goes on and on and on. Just the people that never get talked to, that never gets acknowledged, and that's a great way to pay it forward.
Something that we should all be doing every day. But Kevin, this is a concerted effort on your part and the part of your organization for, at the very least, in those 11 days leading up to the anniversary of 9/11. Like, let's really triple down on this. Let's find our own creative, inventive ways to bring some joy to people, to spread these random acts of kindness, and then let it exponentially increase. For every one I do for you, you do 3 more for someone else, and so on and so forth. It's an extraordinary effort. So yes, please, if you want to get involved in this, the first stop should be to go to payitforward911.org. We're absolutely also going to make a link on our website, begoodhumanspodcast.com, to the payitforward911.org site. So definitely start there. Do it year round, people. That's what we're here to encourage you to do in general, but absolutely.
It's like feeling it, the Christmas spirit year round.
A little bit. You know?
You always wish, like, oh, Christmas is almost over. It's just been so great. Everybody's so great. You could,
but you're right. You're exactly right about, there is a feeling, and I did a TEDx talk called about the helper's high. That's the feeling that when you do this, you sense this feeling of euphoria that lasts for several minutes.
That's the term.
And so then it's like, being kind and compassionate is like, it is, our muscle is, our brain is a muscle. And just like all muscles, it needs to be trained. And so we can, when you start doing these things, just throughout these 11 days, it starts to get you in the habit. And then what's amazing in my book, I interviewed other people who they started doing it at my company. And then, like, for example, there was a husband of one of my employees who he said, you know what, I used to be a guy who I saw people pulled over on the side of the road and I wasn't going to stop, He He said, but now because of what you all got me to do, now I stopped. And I just recently stopped. There's a guy who ran out of gas. So I picked him up, brought him to the gas station, waited for him to get the gas can and the gas, brought him back to his car. So he said, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, these are...
And you didn't even need to thank you, but it felt great when you got it, right?
Right, exactly.
These are great moments of humanity. I personally have 3 takeaways here, Brian. Number 1, I can't wait to go to Gander. I really want to go to Gander, right? Number 2, if I travel anywhere, I'm going to travel always with 2 bottles of Grey Goose in my luggage, right?
For sure.
And number 3, wherever I go, I want to go with Kevin Tuerff, because this is someone who has taken notice of the good things strangers did for you in the wake of so much unimaginable tragedy.
And created something marvelous out of it.
Truly has decided to pay it forward literally by doing so many kindnesses of your own for others. You are the absolute definition of a good human, Kevin, and we cannot thank you enough for taking the time to join us today, to tell us your story, and most importantly, to tell us about Pay It Forward 9/11.
And I should tell you, Kevin, that usually when we have guests every show, but usually when they haven't come in and they're on like a Zoom situation like you are, we usually send them a very nice Be Good Humans hat.
Yes.
But for you, a handle of Grey Goose vodka.
With a mug to pour it into.
You deserve it, yes.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for sharing this effort. And we do hope that everyone, especially in California, really want to get more participation.
Extremely well done, Kevin. Thank you. A pleasure meeting you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Be good humans, be good humans, be good humans, or we will think you suck.
I think we were both worried about that one a little bit.
Well, only because obviously of the subject matter and the way we like to present our show with fun and lightheartedness. And again, 20% of our episodes will probably be a little heavy subjects, a little heavy. 70%, 80% will be, just fun and lighthearted. But we were worried about it. We were concerned, like, how do hey, let's talk about 9/11, eh?
Yeah, right. Because even after 23 years, I mean, it brings back a lot of dark and painful memories for everybody. Right. But the thing about it is, when you reframe it the way Kevin is doing, as a reason to do random acts of kindness, it gives people all kinds of hope, which I know is basically what we are hoping to do with this show. Yeah, we want to entertain people, absolutely. So let's finish strong.
I love your summations.
Go ahead, entertain people.
Just
for a second.
There you go. I can tell you that this was entertaining to me.
Yes.
All right. In a topic that's not obviously a fun topic to do, and he was wonderful.
Amazing.
A great speaker and had a sense of humor and all that. But in this topic, I think we were both concerned, as we talked about earlier, about how do we make this a little more like we like the shows. So he mentioned Grey Goose vodka a couple of times in the early part of the episode. And I wrote down, I don't know if you can see this, Grey Goose vodka, because that's going to be my big finish. I'm going to do a joke about that. As soon as Trey gets done, talking,
oh man,
I'm gonna big finish, big punch, and we're gonna have a great time. He'll laugh. It's gonna be all great.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm ready. Waiting for him. And then 2, we're gonna Grey Goose, and then you mention it, and like, oh, okay. But this is the entertaining part because both of us sensitive, to trying to make this as fun as possible, as well as dealing with what was going on. We were both looking for the big finish.
Yes.
Yeah. And it wasn't your fault. I mean, it was like I didn't know you had thought of it. You didn't know I had thought of it.
Right. To bring it full circle, it was like the comedy version of me and 3 other cars full of people pulling over at the same time to sort of try and help.
Exactly.
We're both in there like, what do we do? What do we do?
But so I think, maybe in the future we'll just do this, but I'll do it really subtly. I'll do it subtle like this.
Yeah. Or you'll just say out loud, Grey Goose.
I got a Grey Goose punch.
All right. In the meantime, do us a favor. Go visit our website at BeGoodHumansPodcast.com, where you absolutely will find a link for the payitforward911.org. But also where you can tell us, and please do this, tell us about the good humans in your lives, people that you think we should meet that would be good for us to talk to. Also give us your best pointers on how to be a good human. We could always use a few of those. Is there anything else? No, there's not anything else. Let's quit while we're behind.
We're gonna go get a Grey Goose, and we're gonna enjoy that right now.
100%.
Is there a bar, Grant? Do you know if there's a? I mean, really seriously, celebrate a wonderful show.
Yeah, we're gonna go find it.
Yeah,
we're gonna find it.
Do you think he'd mind if I get? Well, Kevin's not hearing us, right?
No.
Do you think Kevin would mind if I get a Kettle One? Because I like it better than.
I'm right there with you.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I am. And then we're gonna go get a drink, and you guys do us a favor. Be good humans.
Bye bye.
Be good humans. Be good humans. Be good humans, or we will think you suck.
Be Good Humans is executive produced by Brian Phelps, Trey Calloway, and Grant Anderson, with associate producers Sean Fitzgerald and Clementine Calloway in partnership with Straw Hut Media. Please like, follow, and subscribe, and remember, be good humans.